Rejected for being too fat, amazing twist exposed by CEO at next table changed her life forever. Sarah sat in her favorite café, crumpling yet another version of her resume, her heart aching with every rejection she received. She was a single mother, battling the city's relentless grind, day after day, working double shifts as a waitress and cleaning lady. The vibrant downtown around her bustled with life, but she felt like an outsider, trudging through a world that only seemed to judge her based on her appearance. Too fat, they murmur, like daggers slicing through her confidence. But today, hope prickled in her chest as she overheard a CEO discussing biases that went beyond skill. "It's absurd," he exclaimed, his voice rich with conviction. "So many qualified individuals are overlooked due to superficial judgments. We need change." His passion ignited an ember within Sarah. Could she really step beyond her self-imposed limitations? Just days later, she received a call that changed everything: a coveted interview at a trendy tech startup right around the corner. The buttercup yellow of her best dress contrasted against the gray backdrop of her life. She could feel the fabric hugging her frame, a soft reminder of her vibrant spirit. Before the mirror, she rehearsed her pitch, the anticipation almost electrifying. But when she entered the office, his put-down stung like icy rain. Subtle jabs masked as innocuous compliments: "You have a unique presence, and it's great to see such confidence," chipped away the hope she'd dared to nurture. Dejected, she left the office believing the familiar lie: people like her just didn't fit in. Just as her heart dipped into familiar despair, a warm voice broke through her thoughts. It was the CEO, the passionate man from the café. "Excuse me," he said, gentleness laced with understanding. "I couldn't help but notice your interview. I want you to know you matter. I've faced my own struggles with bias based on my looks." He extended a hand. "I want to offer you a mentoring position at my company. Help us shape a culture of inclusivity and body positivity." Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes, joy blooming where doubt once thrived. She felt a new chapter unfurling ahead of her, one filled with the potential to transform her work and life for herself and others. Kyle, her spirited 8-year-old, would bounce around the apartment, beaming with pride in the moments she shared her dreams with him. But as she charged forward, helping shape her community, an unexpected upheaval knocked on her door. She stumbled into a viral storm: a social media post fueled old biases, resurfacing wounds she thought had begun to heal. The cruel comments echoed in her mind. Was society changing with her, or still clinging to its outdated judgments? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she braced herself against the storm of criticism, doubt trickled back in, wrapping around her heart like a vice. Did she truly have the strength to keep advocating for her life, her son, and for everyone who felt they didn't belong? Could the narrative really be rewritten, or would she forever stand alone at the edge of acceptance? The following days were a blur for Sarah. Each morning she scrolled through the comments. The harsh words seeped into her thoughts, each one a reminder of the judgment she had spent years trying to escape. "Just another wannabe," one user sneered. "She'll never fit in," another declared. She tried to close the app and focus on the glow of Kyle's smile, but the shadows of doubt loomed larger with each passing hour. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend Mia, the only voice that felt like a lifeline. "Hey, I've been following the post. Don't let them get to you, Sarah. You've come so far." As comforting as it was, the words felt inadequate. The battle felt too big to fight alone. That night, Sarah sat with Kyle at the dinner table. He was drawing a picture of their family, crayons splashed everywhere, depicting a brightly colored world where they roamed free without judgment. "Look, Mom. It's us. We're flying. His enthusiasm bubbled over, infectious in its innocence. She couldn't help but smile, even as the bitterness clung to her heart. What else are we doing? She asked, hoping to redirect his childlike imagination. We're helping people. Just like the superheroes. He proclaimed, his eyes wide with possibility, superheroes. The thought resonated with her. Maybe she didn't need to save the world overnight. What if she just started where she was? Encouraged by Kyle's drawing, she decided to post a response on social media. I may not fit your mold, but that doesn't define my worth. I'm here, I'm trying, and I'm not going anywhere. When she clicked post, her heart raced. The fear of another backlash swelled, but in that moment, she felt a rush of liberation. Watching the tiny dots of notifications gather likes, comments, shares, Sarah felt a flicker of hope fight against the darkness. To her surprise, the floodgates opened wide. Support came rushing in. You're an inspiration. Keep being you. The tide had turned. She scanned through heartfelt messages and felt that familiar warmth of community start to build. It seemed people were craving something real, something authentic, something they could relate to. The following week, she was invited to speak at a local women's empowerment panel after one of her posts caught the attention of a community leader. Her stomach twisted with anxiety, yet the thought of sharing her experience invigorated her. She had to tell her story. On the day of the event, she stood backstage, heart pounding. The room was filled with women who had traversed paths similar to hers, each carrying their own wounds and heroes' tales. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped onto the stage. She was met with warm smiles and supportive nods. With every word, she watched as their faces transformed, connecting through shared struggles of self-acceptance and resilience. But just as she reached a pivotal moment in her speech, a familiar face entered her view, the CEO from the café. He had come to support her. As he made eye contact, a thought hit her hard. What if this was more than just her story? What if, together, they could change more than just perceptions? What if they could mold a whole new narrative? As she wrapped up her speech with a passionate call to action, the crowd erupted in applause. Yet in the back of her mind, lingering like a shadow, a thought anxiously pulsed: what would happen when the world saw not just the strength she was building, but also the vulnerability that lay beneath? Sarah, I have an idea, the CEO whispered after the applause faded, his eyes glinting with possibility. What if we collaborated on a project to raise awareness about body positivity? Her heart raced. Was this the moment she'd been waiting for? But what she didn't expect was the wave of self-doubt crashing back in, threatening to pull her under. Would she really take the leap, or would fear hold her back once more? Sarah's mind swirled with a tempest of emotions. The offer hung in the air, heavy with promise and peril. She couldn't shake the familiar doubt, the old whisper that said she wasn't enough. That sounds great, she stammered, her words getting caught in the tight grip of anxiety. The CEO's enthusiasm flickered momentarily, like a candle threatened by a gust of wind. You don't seem convinced, he said gently, his brows furrowing as he leaned closer. I have a lot on my plate, she replied, avoiding his gaze. She thought of Kyle, of her job, of the comments that still haunted her. One step at a time, Sarah, he urged. You're already inspiring others. Imagine what you could achieve with this project. You have a voice that deserves to be heard. She felt a warmth spread through her, like sunbeams breaking through the clouds. But the clouds were still there. But what if I fail? What if they tear me down again? Have you failed yet? He challenged, softly but firmly. The truth settled in her heart and expanded within her. No, she hadn't failed. Not really. The applause still echoing in her ears, she allowed a smile to break through. Okay, let us do it. As they exchanged ideas, the conversation flowed like a refreshing stream. The CEO shared his vision and Sarah began to share hers. They envisioned workshops, outreach programs, and even social media campaigns that celebrated different body types and personal stories. As they formulated the plan, Sarah felt a shift. The fear that once gripped her started to loosen its chains. She was no longer just a victim of judgment but a warrior ready to wield her story as a weapon for change. Days turned into weeks as planning progressed. Sarah dove into her project, her fingers dancing over the keyboard as she helped craft content, curate speakers, and build a community. The support continued to swell, her voice was rising above the noise of negativity, resonating with others. But just as Sarah allowed herself to believe in the path she was carving out, self-doubt reared its ugly head again. As the project launched, she faced a tsunami of remarks. She thinks she's a role model now. And what does she know about body positivity? Flickered across her screen. Staring at her phone, she felt her heart sink. Look at them, Mom. Kyle interrupted, his small hands clutching a crayon drawing he had made for her. The image depicted a superhero, caped and beaming, standing boldly against a backdrop of cheers and colorful words of encouragement. This is you. You're the best superhero ever. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she knelt down, embracing him tightly. But what if they don't see it like you do? Kyle pulled back, looking her straight in the eye. But Mom, you do. And that's what matters. In that moment, clarity washed over her. What if she chose to turn the negative into empowerment? Drawing strength from Kyle's belief, she decided to respond again, not to the haters but to herself. Thank you for the reminder, buddy, she whispered, her resolve solidifying. She grabbed her phone and began typing. Hey, it's me again. I'm doing this for all of us who feel unseen. Let's change the narrative together. As she hit post, she felt an overwhelming sense of release. The fear hadn't vanished, but now it had a different tone. Days later, they gathered for the project launch. The energy thrummed through the room as women filled the space, each carrying their unique story. Sarah felt a surge of exhilaration, and perhaps, a little fear too. But wouldn't that be the point? To embrace every emotion that came with change, as Sarah took her place at the podium, her heart reverberated with ambition. Before she could speak, someone called out from the back. What if they try to tear you down again? The question hung in the air, thick with challenge and doubt. How would she respond? Would she let fear overshadow the joy of connection? With eyes scanning the audience, a grin began to form on her lips as she thought about what lay ahead. The moment hung on the edge of anticipation, vibrating with unspoken answers in the warm room. Faces turned towards her, a mix of encouragement and apprehension, each waiting for her response. She could feel her heart racing against her ribcage, each thump a reminder of her purpose. What if they try to tear you down again? The voice echoed, and for just a fleeting moment, doubt crept in. But she took a deep breath, inhaling the bravery shared in the room, letting it fill her lungs. They might, she finally said, her voice steadying. And that's okay. A ripple of surprise ran through the crowd. Sarah straightened her shoulders. What if, instead of allowing it to tear us apart, we allow it to unify us? What if we turn those negative comments into fuel for our fire? People began to nod, murmurs of agreement rising and falling like the waves of hope. Sarah could feel the energy shift. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about everyone who felt weighed down by the world's judgments. I used to think that the fear of being judged would stop me. That I'd crumble under the weight of it all. But today, standing here, I choose to embrace it. The cheers began, the soft clapping slowly turning into raucous applause. As the noise swelled, she felt a connection form, a tapestry woven from shared experiences. Each clap reminded her of Kyle's drawing, of all the superhero-like qualities each of them held within. The mic felt alive in her hands as she spoke. I'm asking all of you to join me on this journey. Let us lift each other up, share our stories, and celebrate every curve, every flaw, and every triumph. Together, we're a beautiful force. With every word, she witnessed sparks of empowerment igniting in the faces before her. Some were wiping tears, others were smiling genuinely, the kind that crinkles the corners of their eyes. For a second, Sarah lost sight of her fears. She was no longer alone on stage, she stood alongside an army of individuals ready to embrace vulnerability and authenticity. As she wrapped up her speech, she sensed an urgent wave of confidence wash over her. This wasn't just a project, it was a movement, a revolution of self-love and acceptance. Before she stepped away from the podium, she decided to make one last bold move. And if any of you have felt like you're not enough, come talk to me afterward. We're in this together. The applause erupted again, louder this time, like a battle cry for change. As the evening progressed, conversations blossomed around her. Women poured out their stories, their struggles, and shared glimmers of hope. Kyle bounced around the room, grinning at every familiar face, and Sarah could feel the warmth radiating, the affirmation that this was real, that they were touching lives. But just as the festivities began, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. An unfamiliar face stepped into Sarah's line of sight, a tall woman, hard lines etched on her brow, with piercing eyes that seemed to dissect every inch of Sarah's being. "I didn't think someone like you could inspire anyone." The words pierced the celebration like a knife. The room grew cold, and Sarah's heart dropped. Was this how the evening would end? Would this challenge unravel everything she had just built? Steeling herself, she met the stranger's gaze, determined not to let fear dictate her next move. "Why not?" Sarah replied, her voice unwavering. The silence was thick, a tension that begged resolution. But maybe, just maybe, this was an opportunity. As Sarah prepared to speak again, more questions buzzed in her mind. Could one exchange alter everything she had championed so fiercely? What would it take to turn this confrontation into a moment of powerful transformation? The answers swirled just out of reach, but Sarah's determination was undeniable. She was ready to fight for her voice and everyone else's no matter what came next. Sarah locked eyes with the woman, her heart pounding. Uncertainty danced at the edges of her mind, but she took a deep breath and straightened up, grounding herself as voices around the room faded into a dull murmur. "Why not?" she repeated, louder this time, letting the strength of her words reverberate off the walls. "Because I have curves. Because I don't fit into someone else's narrow definitions of beauty. Well, I'm here to tell you that your narrow view isn't the only one." Gasps echoed softly around her, but she pressed on, driven by the weight of the moment. "We can redefine what inspiring looks like, what success can be. I'm not perfect, and I don't have to be. None of us do. Our stories matter just as much as our appearances. To judge someone based solely on their looks is to miss out on the incredible strength they possess." The stranger's jaw tightened, but Sarah saw uncertainty flicker in her eyes. Perhaps this was a chance, perhaps this woman was yearning for something deeper, something real. "And maybe," Sarah said, her voice softer but resolute, "you might find that your own definition of inspiration has been built on shaky grounds." Silence enveloped them all. The unfamiliar woman flinched slightly but then gathered herself, stepping closer. "And what do you know about it?" "More than you might think." The warmth of the crowd enveloped her as Sarah continued, emboldened now. "I've faced my own doubts, but I've also found strength in vulnerability. So many of us are tired of hiding. We're holding each other up, showing each other that it's okay to be exactly who we are." Cheers erupted once more from the audience, pressure releasing from the air. Sarah could feel the momentum shifting again, people rallying behind her. The stranger hesitated, her expression flickering between contemplation and something else, perhaps fear, perhaps empathy. "And what if I told you I've felt that pressure my entire life too?" Gasps rippled through the crowd again, they hadn't expected that turn. Sarah's heart softened, and she took a small step toward the woman, inviting connection. "Then let us change the narrative together. No one should feel the burden of judgment alone." It was a moment suspended in time. Sarah could see trepidation melting into a cautious vulnerability. The crowd watched breathlessly, a shared experience unfolding. Maybe this was the bridge they needed to build a genuine connection. As the woman looked around, searching for the faces in the crowd, the tension morphed into something less stifling, a flicker of hope. Would she let herself be vulnerable? But just as it seemed things might shift, the moment was interrupted. Kyle rushed over, excitement spilling over. "Mom! You'll never believe who just got here." The woman's attention shifted, and the spark of vulnerability dimmed. With a hurried smile, she reassured the crowd, "This isn't over." And with that, she walked away, leaving a lingering tension in the air. Sarah turned to Kyle, her heart racing with uncertainty. "What just happened?" "I think you changed things just a little," he said, his eyes wide with admiration. "But there's a lot more to come, right?" The fire within Sarah blazed bright as the crowd buzzed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation had only scratched the surface. What would the woman do next? Would she take up the challenge or retreat into her own shadows? The night had transformed in unexpected ways, launching Sarah into uncharted territory. A part of her was terrified, worrying about whether the connection was lost forever. But another part bristled with possibility. How could she harness this momentum? The shattered judgment, the pain, the underlying empathy, questions swirled in her mind as she scanned the room, searching for answers. What if I could help not just her, but so many others like her? The answer waited just ahead, beckoning her to dive even deeper into this journey. Would she find the courage to reconnect with the woman and transform the moment into something truly revolutionary? Sarah's heart raced as she watched the woman glide away, her silhouette swallowed by the crowd. The air around her felt heavy, charged with unresolved tension. Kyle's earlier excitement faded into a murmur of chatter from the audience, now scattered and unsure. The moment had slipped away as if between her fingers. But it also sparked a fire that burned brighter in her chest. "Mom, what now?" Kyle asked, his youthful curiosity mixed with concern. I don't know yet," she breathed, brushing a hand through her hair to calm the cascade of thoughts. "I think I need to find her." Even as she spoke, Sarah grappled with the nagging doubt that clawed at her. What if the woman had taken a step back? What if she was headed back to her old beliefs, untouched by the moment they shared? "Seriously?" Kyle's eyes lit up. "You're really going to chase her?" "Something feels unfinished," Sarah replied, determination edging into her voice. "I just want to talk to her. Maybe I can help her see things differently, like I tried, just for a moment." As she stepped away from the main crowd, the noise behind her quieted, replaced by the softer sounds of people enjoying their conversations. She spotted the woman near the entrance, deep in conversation with Kyle's father, who had just arrived. A flicker of hesitation washed over Sarah. But she couldn't bail out now, she had to reach out. "Excuse me," Sarah interjected gently, her heart pounding as she approached. The woman turned, surprise danced across her face. "Oh, you," she said, brow knit in confusion. "Yeah, it's me," Sarah said, forcing a smile despite her nerves. "I just wanted to finish what we started. You were saying you felt the pressure. Can we talk about that?" For a moment, the air was thick with indecision. The woman glanced at Kyle's father, whose warm expression encouraged her, but uncertainty loomed in her eyes. "I don't know, please." The word slipped out like a plea, and Sarah felt herself step forward, yearning for understanding. "You're not alone in this. If you felt it too, your voice matters. My story matters. Maybe we can help each other." A moment of contemplation crossed the woman's face. Finally, she sighed and nodded slightly. "Okay. Let us talk." They found a quieter corner, away from prying ears, while Kyle lingered close, watching intently. Sarah leaned in, curiosity mingling with empathy. "What has it been like for you?" "I've spent my life believing I had to fit a mold to be thinner, more perfect," the woman admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it never felt right. And when I look at myself, it's hard to feel anything but shame. A wave of sadness washed over Sarah. She saw herself in those words, felt the echo of her own struggles. I know what that feels like, she responded softly. But you know what? I think we can redefine what being enough looks like. The woman met her gaze, and for a fleeting second, vulnerability flickered in her eyes. But how? Just as Sarah was about to respond, a commotion erupted at the entrance. It drew both women's attention, and Sarah's heart sank as the chatter grew louder. She quickly turned to see what was happening. There stood a figure, someone tall with an unmistakable presence. Eyes wide, she felt her breath catch in her throat. In disbelief, Sarah whispered, "Is that?" The woman followed her gaze, her expression changing from concern to shock. No way, it can't be. But it was. The moment felt charged, thick with potential. The man stepped forward, his face filled with purpose. Had Sarah's world just shifted again? As he made his way toward them, both women stood frozen, caught between excitement and fear. What could this man possibly mean for the conversation they were having, their own revelations? Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't just another conversation, it felt like the unfolding of a new chapter, one that might change everything. What could he possibly reveal? Would he help uncover hidden truths or disrupt their fragile connection? The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, leading Sarah to wonder, were they all about to step into a truth none of them were ready for? The man approached with an air of self-assurance, his eyes scanning the room before locking onto Sarah and the woman beside her. A mix of recognition and disbelief flooded Sarah's mind. He was Matthew, the CEO of a major wellness brand, a figure who epitomized the very standards they had just been discussing. As he drew closer, Sarah felt a mixture of dread and curiosity bubble beneath the surface. "Hey there," he said, voice warm yet weighted with authority. "I couldn't help but overhear part of your conversation. Mind if I join?" Sure," Sarah managed, stunned but sensing this was an opportunity she couldn't let slip away. Matthew slid into the seat across from them, his presence commanding yet approachable. He looked from Sarah to the woman, whose features reflected a cocktail of confusion and hope. "I know this might sound strange," he began carefully, "but I've spent years trying to break down the idea that perfection is what sells. The pressure to maintain a certain image, it nearly destroyed me." Sarah's heart raced. This was not what she had expected. "You?" she asked, struggling to mask her surprise. "Isn't your job all about promoting an ideal?" He nodded, running a hand through his hair, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Yes, but I realized something important along the way. It's those ideals that led to countless struggles for people, including myself. I found myself in a loop of unrealistic expectations. I can't promote a message I don't believe in anymore." The woman leaned in, her eyes wide. "So what do you believe in?" "I believe in acceptance," Matthew replied, the conviction in his voice almost palpable. "Real acceptance. Not just saying it, but living it. It's a journey, but we have to stop making others feel like they're not enough." Hearing those words, Sarah felt warmth spread through her. This was the kind of conversation she had been yearning for. "So what do we do? How do we start to change this?" Matthew sat back, his gaze unwavering. "We start by sharing our stories. We need to create a movement, a community. Let us give people the platform to feel seen and heard. Promoting body positivity isn't just a trend, it's essential." Sarah glanced at the woman beside her, who appeared to be wrestling with her emotions. This man, with his power and influence, could be the key to giving their message wings. "Would you help us?" Sarah asked, the words tumbling out as hope sparked to life. "We want to create a space for others to feel accepted." Matthew hesitated, weighing the weight of her request. "Absolutely," he said finally, an encouraging smile creeping onto his lips. "But we'll need to do it right, authentically. We can't change the world alone." As they discussed practical ideas and visions, a sense of camaraderie began to blossom, weaving their disparate paths together into something meaningful. Meanwhile, Kyle watched closely, his wide eyes shining with admiration. But just as Sarah felt she was stepping onto solid ground, the woman suddenly turned pale, her hands trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "Wait," she whispered. "What if this doesn't work? What if we fail? Failure isn't the end. It's a part of the journey," Matthew replied gently. "We learn and grow from it. It means we care enough to try." As he spoke, Sarah could see the woman's posture relax, conviction building within her. "You're right," she said, voice stronger. "We owe it to ourselves to try." Yet just as enthusiasm ignited, a figure stepped between them and the exit, a familiar face that shot a chill through Sarah. This man, with his imposing presence, looked like the last person she wanted to confront right now. "Matthew," he called out, voice dripping with authority. "What were you doing here?" All eyes turned. The tension in the air thickened, leaving Sarah momentarily speechless. Who was this man, and what did he mean for Matthew's promise? Would his presence unravel everything? The atmosphere trembled with uncertainty, like a storm about to break. Sarah's heart pounded with unanswered questions. Would they be forced to fight for their voices, or would they stand united against the storm? Matthew's eyes widened at the sight of the man blocking their way. For a moment, he froze as if calculating his next move. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she tried to piece together who this intruder was. She could sense the tension wrapping around them like a thick fog, and every second felt stretched to the breaking point. The imposing figure was dressed sharply in a tailored suit that seemed to amplify his intimidation factor. He stood tall, arms crossed, and exuded an energy that felt constricting. Sarah beckoned for a quick glance at Matthew, who appeared suddenly smaller, as if the weight of this moment bore down heavily on him. "Lucas," Matthew finally spoke, the name slipping through his lips with a mixture of resignation and defiance. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Clearly," Lucas replied, a smirk dancing across his lips. "I've been trying to reach you. I need to discuss our upcoming campaign." "But I'm busy right now," Matthew said, visibly steeling himself. "Can't you see we're in the middle of something important?" "Important?" The word hung in the air, bursting with promise and potential. Sarah felt a mix of hope and dread as Lucas turned his eyes on her and the woman beside her. He seemed to size them up, a mixture of disdain and amusement playing across his face. "And who are your new friends?" Sarah straightened her back, fighting against the impulse to shrink away. "I'm Sarah, and this is whatever," Lucas interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. "Let us be real here. What's this? A support group for people who can't handle the standards?" He let out a short, mocking laugh that echoed through the room. A pang of anger shot through Sarah, but before she could respond, Matthew cut in. "Enough, Lucas. We're done with the disparaging comments. It's time to move forward with real change. The kind that matters." Matthew's voice was firm and resolute. A flicker of admiration shot through Sarah, reminding her of the reason they had been drawn to him in the first place. But she could see how this confrontation had rattled him. Lucas stepped closer, the air between them electric and crackling with tension. "Change? Is that what you call this? A joke? You think you can reform what we've built?" Matthew's jaw tightened. "What we've built needs to evolve. If we continue promoting unattainable ideals, we'll just perpetuate this cycle of pain." A silence fell, heavy enough to make Sarah's heart race. She could see the crowd around them casting curious glances. They were witnesses to this turmoil, people leaning in to hear the outcome. "What's the point of this? Who do you think even cares?" Lucas shouted, and for an instant, Sarah thought she saw fear flicker in Matthew's eyes. But it was a fleeting moment. Matthew squared his shoulders back and held Lucas's gaze. "People care. More than you think. We owe them honesty, a chance to feel valued, however they look." The words echoed through Sarah, igniting a flame of determination. She caught the eyes of the woman beside her, whose features reflected a building resolve. This was bigger than any one of them. "Listen," Sarah said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "We can't let your world extinguish our light. We deserve to feel accepted just as we are." Lucas raised an eyebrow, disarming the tension for a split second as he assessed their united front. And then he laughed again, a sharper sound, but Sarah now felt emboldened, surrounded by allies. "Pathetic," he finally sneered, shaking his head. "You really think you can challenge the way things are?" "Watch us," Matthew responded fiercely, eyes lit with an inner fire. As Lucas stepped back, surprise evident on his face, a ripple of energy surged through the room. Encouragement flickered among the gathered crowd, but just as Sarah thought their resolve might drown out the negativity, Lucas glanced back, fixing Matthew with a dangerous smile. "You'll regret this, Matthew. Trust me." The words hung heavy and menacing in the air, a promise of further conflict. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. The stakes were higher than they had anticipated, and the battle for acceptance was only just beginning. Her mind raced with possibilities, fears, and unexpected twists that might lie ahead. Would they truly be able to shift the tide against such overwhelming forces? In that moment of uncertainty, her vision cleared. They had each other. They had purpose. And together, perhaps they could carve out a path towards real acceptance. As the crowd began to murmur, a blend of hope and disbelief rippled through them. Sarah could only imagine what was waiting just around the corner. What other challenges would they face? And would their newfound unity be enough to light the way through the darkness? The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, wrapping around Matthew, Sarah, and the mysterious woman standing beside them. There was a strange energy in the air, a mix of anticipation and fear. Sarah could see some faces brighten with hope, while others turned worried. It was as if they were all tethered to Matthew's confrontation with Lucas. "Are you ready for the fallout?" the woman beside Sarah asked, her voice a whisper, but filled with urgency. Matthew let out a long breath, like he was releasing some of the weight he had been carrying. "I'm ready for whatever comes next," he replied, glancing from Sarah to the woman and back. "But I can't do this alone. We want to let you fight this battle by yourself," Sarah said, her conviction reaching deeper than ever. She could feel the collective heartbeat of the crowd, pulsing with a shared determination. This was their moment. Just then, Lucas's voice sliced through the atmosphere. "You think this matters? You're just making a scene for nothing." He gestured wildly, almost daring the crowd to agree. More people stepped forward, bolstered by the atmosphere and nodding in support. Sarah caught a glimpse of an older woman, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It does matter. We matter." Matthew looked around, every face reinforcing the gravity of their mission. He nodded, focusing on Lucas. "You're wrong, Lucas. Every story shared, every voice raised, it all means something. Our worth is not defined by the narrow standards you've built." Something shifted in the rhetorical air. Lucas faltered, his bravado cracking just slightly. It was just a moment, a brief glimpse of uncertainty. But Sarah honed in on it. She stepped a little closer to Matthew, and their connected energy sparked between them. They were facing the chaos together. "Look around you," she urged, raising her voice to touch the hearts of everyone gathered. "We're all more than your ideology. We deserve a place at the table, just like anyone else." The crowd erupted in a wave of cheers, a chorus of agreement echoing in those words. It felt like the wind had changed direction, sending ripples of strength through every person present. But Lucas stood his ground, teeth gritted, determination etched into his features. "You think you can change everything overnight? You have no idea what you're up against. What if this is just the beginning?" Matthew shot back, confidence surging through him. "Nothing worth fighting for comes easy. This is our fight. And change starts now." For a moment, everything hung suspended in the air: fear, hope, and the undeniable spirit of rebellion interlinked. Then Lucas laughed, but it was tinged with an edge of desperation. "You'll regret this, Matthew." With that, he turned and walked away, but not without leaving a lingering threat in the air. Sarah could feel the tension turn from fear to grit. It was clearer now than ever that their journey wouldn't be easy, but it was growing unmistakably meaningful. As they collected their breath, Sarah felt a warm hand on her shoulder. The older woman spoke, her voice softer now. "Thank you for standing up. We need more voices like yours." A chill ran down Sarah's spine, but instead of fear, it was the thrill of having carved a tiny crack in the impenetrable wall Lucas represented. They had all felt it, this shift, this new possibility. "Let us not stop here," Matthew encouraged, standing tall among them. "Let us keep this momentum going. We're not backing down." And just as they began to discuss their next steps, a fiery woman from the crowd stepped forward. Her expression was resolute, as she shouted, "What's the plan? We need action. We need a rally, something big." A rush of excitement coursed through them all. Sarah could barely contain the mix of anticipation and fear swirling with purpose. This was becoming more than she had ever expected, more than a simple movement against Lucas. It was turning into a firestorm for change, one she couldn't ignore. While ideas flew back and forth, a sense of camaraderie began to blossom, wielding the energy of hope and resilience. But in the back of her mind, Sarah couldn't shake off the nagging sensation of Lucas's warning. What would he do next? Sometimes, the fight only begins once you take a step into the light. What awaited them as they ventured deeper into this delicate battle for acceptance? The air was charged with anticipation as Sarah stood alongside Matthew and the woman from before, the crowd around them buzzing with excitement and hope. They had taken a stand, and it felt monumental. Sarah could feel the gentle thrum of inspiration building within her, coursing through her veins like a steady heartbeat. This was their moment, their chance to redefine acceptance and spark a movement, a powerful community of voices rising together. As the crowd mingled and strategized, Sarah held on to the conviction blooming inside her. She caught Kyle's eye as he chatted with a group of new friends, each one sharing pieces of their own stories. His laughter bubbled up like a sweet melody among the noise, and she couldn't help but beam with pride. He believed in her and in the mission ahead. "It's time to gather everyone's ideas," Matthew announced, his deep voice cutting through the chatter. "We need to be more than just voices, we need actionable steps. Who's ready to take charge?" More hands shot up in the air, enthusiasm radiating from every corner of the room. Sarah felt herself invigorated. She had never imagined being part of something so transformative. As discussions flickered, ideas flowed like a river. The plan began to take shape. Rallies, workshops, a campaign dedicated to showcasing real bodies and authentic stories. It was all brewing like a powerful storm of change, but as hope flourished, a familiar reminder crept back into her mind: Lucas's sneer, his disdain, and the looming threat he represented. Would he strike back? The uncertainty lingered, but she shook it off, focusing instead on the warmth blossoming around her. This community was strong, united in purpose. "Remember," Sarah called out, her voice steady and clear as she perched on the edge of the improvised stage, "we're not just changing perceptions of beauty, we're cultivating a culture of kindness and acceptance. Let love and empathy be our guiding forces." The crowd erupted into applause, and for a fleeting moment, excitement eclipsed the worry gnawing at her. Hope flowed thick in the air as one person after another stepped forward to share their stories of struggle, resilience, and the joy of embracing their true selves. It was a cathartic release, a confession of sorts, and Sarah hung on every word. Then, as they launched into the specifics of the rally plans, something shiny caught Sarah's eye, inching closer like an unforeseen wave. It was a group of women approaching, their faces set with purpose. Sarah sensed urgency in their footsteps. "Hey, we heard about what's happening," one woman said, her voice tinged with excitement. "We want to help. Let us join you. We're ready to make change happen." Each statement reinforced their mission. One by one, they shared how they too had felt oppressed, dismissed, and victimized by the judgmental world. The growing throng knotted together like vines, each new person adding to their strength. It was suffocatingly beautiful. But just as the dialogue swelled, that cold wave of doubt crashed back in. "Don't let this blind you." A voice rang through the crowd. Lucas, silent up to this moment, stood tall again, a storm cloud amidst their brightness. "You think this will change anything? You are not enough. You are just noise." A hush fell like thick fog, the vibrant energy dimming as fear snaked its way in again. But Sarah refused to let that fear take hold. She stepped forward, heart pounding, fists clenched at her sides. "No. Our voices matter. We represent the real people who have been silenced for too long. You may see us as noise, but we are the chorus of undeniable truth." People began joining in her shout, "We matter. We are enough." The phrases echoing off the walls, rising higher and higher until it felt like thunder in the room. Lucas stiffened, his bravado faltering as he glanced around, met by determination in every eye. For the first time, it looked as if doubt crossed his mind. "You think this is it? You're playing with fire," he warned, retreating slowly but visibly shaken by the unity before him. And just like that, he vanished back into the shadows, leaving a shuddering energy behind. Their spirit surged, rising through the cracks he'd left behind. With every passing moment, Sarah felt their collective power shaping into something unshakable. Those moments of uncertainty faded behind the urgency of standing for what they believed in. Their ideas were met with applause as they rallied together, the excitement rising again as they brainstormed how to launch their campaign, ideas intertwining like thread stitching them closer together. When they finally wrapped up, shoulders brushing against one another, they could feel the shift in their hearts. They had become more than individuals, they were a movement. Sarah looked out at the faces filled with determination and pride. "This is just the beginning," she told them, tears of overwhelming joy glittering in her eyes. "Think of what we can achieve together." The crowd erupted again in applause, a chorus of collective spirit rising. Hope surged within Sarah, intertwining with acceptance and determination. It felt real, she was unstoppable, ready to advocate fiercely for herself, her son, and everyone who felt like misfits in the world. As they took their first shared breath of victory, Kyle rushed over, beaming up at her. "Mom! You're amazing. I knew you could do it." His words washed over her like soothing rain. "I couldn't have done it without you." She knelt to pull him into a hug, feeling every fiber of her resolve tighten around her. This journey was not just for her, it was for everyone past, present, and future. And she wouldn't have traded it for anything. Days turned into weeks filled with rallies, workshops, and powerful connections that spread like wildfire throughout the city. The world took notice, and so did the media. Stories of acceptance began to fill the airwaves, in print, online, and in every space they occupied. As they forged onward, the shadows of doubt began to dissipate. The new narrative written wouldn't just belong to Sarah and her allies, it belonged to everyone who dared to dream of a kinder world, where every body was valued. With her heart fuller than ever, Sarah stood firmly in the light of acceptance, ready to face whatever came next, side by side with a community that would not stop fighting for love and belonging. The world was listening now, and they were just getting started. Don't you ever miss the next exciting chapter of these life-changing stories. You need to subscribe now to our channel. Every like you leave feeds the algorithm that helps us reach even more hearts. Comment below your feelings about this triumphant conclusion. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. It's time to show your support and be part of something bigger.